Welcome back to Developer Roadmaps. Today, we're adding some absolutely essential organization tools to our HTML skill set: lists and tables. These are the elements that take a simple wall of text and turn it into structured, meaningful information. So here's our game plan. We'll start with a quick recap on structure, just to get our bearings. Then we'll dive right into organizing content with lists. After that, we're going to cover how to build with tables, look at some of the more advanced features, and then we'll see what's coming up next on the roadmap. Okay, first things first. Let's connect back to our last checkpoint on this developer journey. It's all about building on what we already know. So last time, we basically gave our content a general shape, right? We used tags to group things. But now we need more specific tools for real-world information, like step-by-step instructions, or glossary terms, or complex sets of data. This is exactly where lists and tables become so incredibly important.
Let's kick things off with the most fundamental tool for organizing information in a line: lists. They are everywhere on the web, and for a very good reason.
So HTML gives us different tools for different needs. And the choice you make isn't just about how it looks, it's about the meaning, the semantics of your content. Answering this question is totally key to writing good HTML. This slide really gets to the heart of it. On the left, you've got your shopping list. It doesn't really matter what order you buy things in, right? That's a job for an unordered list, the UL tag. But on the right, you've got a recipe, and you better believe the order is critical there. For that, you need an ordered list using the OL tag. It all comes down to preserving the meaning of your content. But what if you're not just listing things, but you're actually defining them? Pairing a term with its description. Well, HTML has this covered there too, with the description list. It's just perfect for glossaries or any kind of key value data. So these three list types, unordered, ordered, and description, they're going to cover almost every scenario you can think of. And notice how each tag doesn't just define the meaning, but it also gives the browser a default structure to work with. Pretty smart. Now this is where lists get really powerful. You can create these complex outlines just by nesting one list inside another. The main rule is simple. A sublist always has to go inside a parent's list item, that li tag. Let me show you what that looks like in code. And here you can see that structure perfectly. The apple and banana items are nested within the fruits item. In the HTML, this means that whole sublist is inside the list item for fruits, and that's what creates that clear indented hierarchy. Okay, here's a huge best practice for you. HTML is for meaning, CSS is for style. How your list looks, whether it has bullets or numbers or even custom little icons, that should always be handled by CSS using properties like list style type. You really want to avoid those old deprecated HTML attributes that try to do CSS's job. So, lists are amazing for one-dimensional information. But what happens when your data has two dimensions? Rows and columns. Well, that's when we bring in our next big tool, HTML tables. For any kind of data that fits in a grid, we use the table element. Think of that as the main container. The whole structure is built from table rows, or TR, and inside each row, you have your cells. You'll use TH for header cells and TD for your regular data cells. Now for even better structure, and this is super important for accessibility, we can group our rows. We can use header for the header content, body for the main data, and foot for any summary rows at the bottom. And you should always include a caption to give your table a clear title. Okay, with the basic structure down, we can now handle more complex stuff. And we're also going to cover the #1 rule for using tables that every single modern developer needs to follow. So what if you have a single header that needs to cover, say, 3 columns below it? Well, instead of making a bunch of empty cells, you can just use the Colspan attribute. It lets a single cell span horizontally across its neighbors. And that exact same logic applies vertically. The Rowspan attribute lets a cell stretch downwards across multiple rows. This is perfect for grouping related items in a column without repeating yourself over and over. This is it. This is the single most important rule. If you take one thing away about tables, let it be this. Way back in the early days of the web, people used tables to lay out entire web pages. We just don't do that anymore. Modern web development uses CSS for layouts, and that keeps our HTML semantic, clean, and accessible. Accessibility is just not optional. First, always use a caption to give the table some context. Second, you gotta use th for all your header cells so screen readers know what to announce. And finally, use the scope attribute on those headers to explicitly link them to their corresponding rows or columns. It creates a clear map of your data for every user.
And just like that, we've marked another huge checkpoint on our roadmap. We have mastered how to organize text and structure data. So what's next? Well, we've basically built the skeleton with structure and text. So the next logical step is to bring it all to life by integrating rich media. We're going to learn how to embed images, audio, and video to create way more dynamic and engaging web pages.
So as you continue on your journey, think about this. How can you use what you learned today to make your very next project more organized and accessible, right from the beginning? Because proper structure isn't an afterthought, it is the solid foundation of a great website. Thanks for joining us. This is Developer Roadmaps. Map your path. Build your career. Keep building, keep learning, and we'll see you at the next checkpoint.